GearNetwork.com.
This is a Gear Network production.
I am the greatest. The greatest.
JC Money.
And hello, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the JC Money Show here on the Gear Radio Network. How's it going, everybody? My name is John Cimino, a.k.a. JC Money. I am here with you. And as always, I want to bring to your attention www.shopgear.com. It's the reason why the JC Money Show Uncensored is, well, not uncensored, but it is commercial free. You visit shopgear.com, that will take you right to your Amazon page, and you can go on there and do all of your Amazon shopping. The difference is using Amazon through shopgear.com as opposed to regular Amazon.com is that Amazon sees that you're shopping through them because of us. We recommended you there, so they kick us back a little something to help out with production costs and keep these podcasts coming to you for free and independently, baby. So, yeah. How'd you like Turnbuckle Talk episode 13? Holy shit, Gabriel Soul. Where was that last year? Now, I've already touched up on Shitgun Jackson and all that bullshit, but I realized that OSPW's done. And I didn't really have a take on it because Talking Wrestling, that season is over. Next season of Talking Wrestling comes back in March, so March 2017, mark your calendars. So I didn't really have anything to say about OSPW publicly. I typed it several times as far as my thoughts on what led up to this last show, the final show, Civil War, with Nickel City Wrestling and all that shit that was going on there. And let me just backtrack this, okay? I'll backtrack it to the beginning of the year. Actually, I'll backtrack it to the beginning of my time in OSPW. So when I first went to OSPW, it was back in 2006, I believe it was, 2006. And I went there with the Next Era Wrestling thing. We were doing the Western New York War or whatever that truthfully nobody cared about. But it introduced the Rochesterians, a lot of Rochesterians, to the Buffalo brand of wrestling. And it introduced the Buffalonians to the Rochester brand of wrestling. So for all of the negative that might have come from that, there was some good associated with that. And I don't want to discredit that, because the war did open up the box for the J.C. Moneys and the Tiger Smiths and the Eric Eminons and the Brian Eminons and the, whoever else was an NEW alumni to go into Buffalo and establish themselves there. Now, that being said, my first impression of OSPW may have... I don't really get influenced with a lot. However, when it was told that we were going to be having some sort of working relationship with them, I did hear from two former OSPW higher-ups that were no longer there at that time, Mark Mandrake and Chris Halen. And they kind of gave me a quick rundown on sort of what to expect at OSPW. And my first takes on OSPW were, it was independent wrestling purgatory. It's what it was. It was very stagnant, and it seemed to be built around the Sons of Thunder, who were the promoters. Well, Deacon, the Son of Thunder, is the promoter, or was the promoter now at this point. And a lot of main storylines, were based around him and or them. I can't tell you how many times they were always in the tag team title picture, or Deacon was always in the heavyweight title picture, or Bishop in the New York title picture, or whatever the case was. And it was a little annoying, and I had been through that similar experience before with SPW and Travis and Toom, always putting himself over. But the difference between Toom and Deacon was that Toom was at least a little younger and having been in the ring with both of them, even at that time, Tomb was a little smoother in the ring. So for what it was worth, Travis and Tomb was able to work. Not saying Deacon couldn't work, but he was very limited in what he could do or what he was willing to do. Now, my first stint with OSPW was not highlighted by Team FU and was not highlighted by Team FU's run to the Tag Team Championship or the feud that we should have had with the Davidsons and the Davidsons chasing us for those titles. Instead, it was highlighted by a ring announcer who would routinely, I don't know if he was just drunk with power, I don't know why he was given power to begin with, but he would tell people, he would critique talent as if he is somehow, just because of his last name, Cooper, and the fact that, he ran a hot sauce. Yeah, I don't know. He would buy those custom hot sauce labels, things that you could do, put his own label on them and sell it as his own. That's Buffalo Tom's hot sauce for you. I got news for you. I could buy a fucking case of that shit right now, label it with my name. It'd be the same goddamn thing. Tastes exactly the same. So, here's websites for that. I posted it out publicly, even to Tom. So that was what was highlighted with my first tenure there. Second and third tenures weren't really anything to write home about. I just kind of popped in, did what I needed to do, and left. All of those times, every single tenure that I was there, never once paid. Never once paid. Got the proverbial house is light bro excuse. So here's where it really went to shit with me in OSPW. The year was 2011. I had, Next Era was done. I was doing Pier 6 Wrestling, Ultimate Wrestling. Yes, I worked there very briefly and was paid. And OSPW. I was working 3 places. My oldest daughter was still underneath the age of 1, and I was getting to the point where I didn't want to go every 3 weeks or whatever between Pier 6, OSPW, UW, or anything else that might have popped up, so I started scaling back. I limited myself to either UW or OSPW because, quite frankly, there's only so much shindy I could handle. So I ended up dropping UW and sticking with OSPW because of the plain and simple fact that I had been with OSPW longer, their crowds were bigger, and even though the product wasn't any less shittier, or any shittier than UW, I should say, the crowds were bigger, and I had already had myself established, and I really liked the Buffalo crowd. The Phelps crowd, Lions crowd, they're not. I mean, look at Phelps and Lions, for Christ's sakes. At least Buffalo has had wrestling for many, many years and are a very passionate fan base. My last show there, I won the New York Championship. And what I was told, because the next show I was supposed to wrestle Tylicious, defend the title against him. I had an issue at home, a family emergency, and that required me to be home to take care of some things, including the kids. This happened about 3 days before the show. I knew I wasn't going to be able to make the show. It would not have been a good or very comfortable situation for me to leave the situation that happened in Rochester to go to Buffalo to not get paid to come back home. Heaven forbid something. What if something were to have happened? Something more were to have happened. Like that. That was my thought process. So 3 or 4 days before then, I reached out to Deacon and told him, here's the deal. This is the situation. I get a call back from Deacon saying, oh, brother, it's okay, brother, but we advertised you for a New York title match, brother, so if you can't make it in, brother, then we're going to have to strip you of the title. But it's okay, brother, because you can just come back the next show and win it back and we can resume the storyline. And I said, well, wouldn't it make a little more sense for me being the heel champion to gimmick it and say, I don't feel Tylicious is worth my shot, getting a shot at the championship. Why? It's not like he's tough anymore. He's not the cartel anymore. He's Tylicious or whatever. Kind of work that and then let that carry over to the following show where I'll come and I'll drop the title and I'll do it right. no, brother, it's okay, brother. We don't have to take care of your family, brother. Family always comes first, brother. And when you and when you're ready, you can come back and we can give the title back to you, brother. But we advertised the New York title match, so we can't let the fans down. I'm like, what? How many times have you not had a heavyweight title match with Brian Emmett as your champion at that point in time? They didn't advertise that because Brian was working. His job at that time sometimes took him, out of town for the weekend and he couldn't make shows or something like that. At least that's what my understanding was. And so then Tiger, who was the storyline commissioner at the time, says, calls me and was like, hey, I'll talk to Deacon. Don't worry. We'll try and figure something out. I'll let you know what's going on, before the show starts. Okay. I'd come to find out that I was fired. Even though I wasn't paid. I was let go or told to the crowd that I no-showed, and because I no-showed and I wasn't loyal or whatever, that I was fired. And then backstage, all I was talking about was how JC no-showed and JC's disrespectful, and we fired JC, and we're not going to take any crap like this at OSPW anymore, blah, 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 blah. At that point, I was like, well, fuck you then. Fuck OSPW, you piece of shit. But at that point, the inmates were running the asylum, as Sol appropriately pointed out. Deacon was the promoter, and he was in charge when he absolutely wanted to be, or had to be. But unless he didn't want to, he wouldn't. He'd always delegated. He delegated to Trip. He delegated to Shadow. He delegated to Tiger. So you had 20 hands in the cookie jar. And that's why, that's what ultimately led to its failure, with the same people being on top doing the same thing. I'm not going to take it away from Gabriel Sol. Go to Turnbuckle Talk episode 13. He breaks it down for you. 100% agree with his assessment on OSPW and why it died. Now, let's go to 2016. I was going to come in, kind of kill two birds with one stone. Get that itch that I had to scratch and get back in the ring, and I was going to do it against Tripp. Then I had come to find out that Nickel City Wrestling was essentially taking over OSPW. And when that news was announced, all things considering, Ultimate Wrestling presented Nickel City Wrestling. So, right then and there, I was able to see right there, and this was in June, I found all this out. 3 weeks before the WrestleFest show that I was supposed to wrestle Tripp. Now, I have been shit-talking UW and their policy, their practices, their brand of wrestling, whatever you call that shit. I have been shit-talking it for years. So now I would be walking into the company that was going to be taken over essentially by UW and sort of helping them build their brand. Oh, JC's an asshole. No, he's not. It's not happening like that. OSPW and Nickel City Wrestling have nothing to do with each other. At least that's the excuse I was given when I pulled out of my WrestleFest appearance. And I said, no, I'm not helping you build a UW brand. Sorry. Not doing it. 2 shows left after WrestleFest. No, thank you. It's way too close to UW and way too close to Nickel City. In order for me to be there, I would be very hypocritical if I showed up there and helped promote it. Plus, if Terry Cadillac was there, which he was, I was going to punch him in the fucking face. And I got no problem saying it. I'm going to steal your line there, Sol. Hashtag fight me. You won't, Terry. But in any event, I took myself out of that equation and was harshly criticized by the deacons of the world, by Deacon himself saying, again, they two have nothing to do with each other. He made a commitment to OSPW, and he made a commitment, and he's letting the fans down, and he's letting the company down, and I never wanted to book him in the first place. And then what happens? The very next show, here's Terry Cadillac, Nickel City Wrestling shirt on. Here's PJ Hansen, Nickel City Wrestling shirt on. Here's Uncle Chris, Nickel City Wrestling shirt on. And then what happens the final show after that? Civil War match. Team OSPW versus Team Nickel City Wrestling. Brilliant fucking way to go out, huh, OSPW? Brilliant way. Who came up with that shit? Instead of using Civil War as the final hurrah, as the proverbial celebration of 14 years of Shindy excellence at OSPW. And 14 years is 14 years. Shindy or not, 14 years is 14 years. I'll give the devil its due. But instead of booking that show to be something special, something grand, a big grand finale, you turn it into a goddamn storyline that proves my exact point that Nickel City Wrestling is essentially OSPW 2.0. And how do I do this? How did I know this? Because I know you guys. I am not a dumbass when it comes to this business. People hate me. You know why people hate me? Is because I spit the truth. People like me and Jonathan Nash and anybody else that's not afraid to speak up, and we get shit on by those people that we're speaking up against because of the plain and simple fact that we tell the truth. We tell it exactly as it is. If it looks like shit, we say it's shit. You're not getting oh, hey, good job, bro. That's awesome, bro, with me. You're certainly not getting that with Ash. But you're not getting that with me. And I called this shit. I called this shot in June. Oh, JC doesn't know what he's talking about, brother. Fuck JC and God bless. Now, fuck you. I had it right. I had it right. It's the one amazing thing about these people, about these companies. JC's bitter because he can't get booked. No, bitch, I can get booked. If I wanted to, I can hit the road this weekend with a few close friends of mine and go wrestle in Brooklyn, or go wrestle in PA, or go wrestle in Canada. If I really wanted to, I could. I could flip the switch like that. Can any of you? No, you cannot. You cannot. That's why you got to get in bed with UW, and that's why Nickel City's got to take over where OSPW left off, and that's exactly what you did. You can't say you didn't, because Deacon turns on Team OSPW to the surprise of absolutely no one. I spoiled that shit 2 weeks before it went out, before it actually happened, and spoiled it again before the show happened. Every one of my show spoilers, by the way, came true. I didn't even have to be told. I called my shot. Deacon leaves OSPW as a tag team champion and the New York champion. 2 out of his 3 or 4 titles went to Deacon on the way out. Oh, and he nominated himself and inducted himself into his own Hall of Fame. And he had the match of the year. Again. Can thank Eric for that one. But Deacon turns on OSPW and sides with Team Nickel City Wrestling. And the show ends with Deacon bowing to Nickel City Wrestling. So you turned it into a television storyline with no TV show. Because the very next month, here comes Nickel City's first show in the same venue, using the same roster. God, Soul, I feel like I'm repeating exactly what you said, but you're repeating what I said, and I'm repeating what Ash said, and anybody with half a brain saw this shit from a mile away. So, when I said good riddance to OSPW, I meant it. Good fucking riddance. One less fucking shindy to deal with. Now, Nickel City, you have yourself an opportunity there. And you're already failing. Because you are looked at, whether you like it or not, as OSPW 2.0. You have the same roster, minus Tiger, because Terry hates Tiger. Yet, he'd book Shotgun Jackson, fucking idiot. And started his show. That's a cool thing. He started his show with Shotgun Jackson versus PJ fucking Hansen. Way to warm up the crowd, man. Way to get him fired up. It's unreal. Unbelievable. Unbelievable how all of that works out. But I'm the asshole because I called it out, right? I'm the asshole because I called it out. No, you guys are the assholes because you are. It's what it is. I did not shed a tear when I found out last year that OSPW was closing. A lot of people got the announcement, got the memo in May. I knew that in September or October of last year when it leaked out. Even though it wasn't officially announced, it leaked out. There was validity to it. And look what happened. So, again, that is what it is. OSPW was what it was. I can't say it was the worst experience because it wasn't overly the worst experience for me as a performer. Nobody knew what the fuck they were doing there. And that company, to my surprise, lasted till 2016, because it really should have been over with in 2011 or 2012, because it was the same shit from there on out. And no matter how hard you tried to get an IndyCar Mafia over, or Tripp tried to be the flag bearer of the company, it always boiled back down to Deacon and the Sons and the Fallen, and to a degree the UWC. That's what it was. But notwithstanding, and I've gone a little longer than the 15 minutes that I like to go for the JC Money Show episodes. But again, Turnbuckle Talk touched up on this. There was a subject that came up with Shotgun Jackson and why he was being used and all that shit. First of all, he had an 86-minute, 30-second long fucking podcast going over his history, like his long history. And this kid is so fucking delusional. He was talking as if he had been around for ages. He hasn't. He was talking as if he was trained. He wasn't. Okay, maybe when there was the old the new old RCW, the Tony the Butler RCW, maybe I'll give him that. Maybe he might have had a ring to play with and get in there and bump around a few times, but that shit ended before it began. So what do you consider training? Where did you train? Where did you bump? Every 6 weeks at OSPW? That shit isn't training. That's a warm-up. But the subject came up of who's to blame for Shotgun Jackson. And you can go ahead and blame the trainer. Okay? I see the point that Soul made. I don't fully blame the trainer for that. I blame the trainer to a degree, I blame the trainer for allowing Shotgun to think it was okay to take bookings or to be put into a spot. I blame him for that. I blame the promoters. Shockingly enough, Terry Cadillac and Deacon, here we go again. Shindy gonna shindy. And put him in a fucking match and put him in a fucking spot. And then how's this for character? Shotgun didn't even know what character he wanted to be. He came out trying to look, the UW, because I saw the entrance, he came out trying to look like Tiger, trying to look like a tough badass with his shotgun thing, and then puts everybody on hold, and then he goes in the back and comes out smiling, slapping hands like Coco Beware and handing out candy. So he didn't even know what the fuck he wanted to do. And then if you actually subject yourself to watching that abortion of a match, kid didn't know how to bump, kid didn't know how to lock up, kid couldn't throw a kick, kid couldn't throw a punch. Why the fuck was he in the ring? Who approved this shit? So there's a lot of fault to go around. But as far as his attitude, Shotgun's attitude, he's always kind of been a dick. So I can't fault the trainer for that. For something that comes naturally to Shotgun, you can't blame the trainer. Blame his parent. Blame Shotgun's parents for that. Shotgun definitely misses a wrestling chromosome. He doesn't belong in the ring. And Deacon, I'm glad you're not promoting anymore. Stick to being quote-unquote talent with Nickel City Wrestling. I hope you do well. I hope you sell your tickets. I hope you sell your 5 tickets that you need to sell if you need to do that. And I hope you're not on the booking committee there. And Shadow, breaking on the wall, Shadow's running Nickel City Wrestling. You say you want it to be different. You verbally told me this personally. You say you want to make it different. You're not off to a good start. But the first show hasn't happened yet. So please, I beg you, please, prove me wrong. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the JC Money Show here on the Gear Radio Network. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening every single time I pump this podcast out and supporting the other shows on this network like Football Talk Weekly, like Misguided Musings, like Get Ready America, like Better Live Than Dead, and like Turnbuckle Talk Radio Podcast. This is a special presentation of the Gear Network, and any rebroadcast or reproduction without the express written permission of the Gear Radio Network is strictly prohibited. Visit shopgear.com, help support the shows and the people that put this together. Thank you all very much for listening. So long, everybody. Good night now. The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.